When Trump comes along and says, I could wrap all this up in 24 hours, how is that even possible? What is he saying there?
Yeah, that's a good one. I know. I'm the only guy. What does he say? He says, I'm the only one who can solve this. I'm the only one who can sort these things out. Look, Trump's being Trump, and but he's, he doesn't believe that. I think he's not an idiot. He says these things, and he knows he's saying it, and he's going to get a sound bite. And for Trump, all media is good media. So, but no, there's no way to solve this one easily. Look at this. I mean, we've got two fucking major conflicts going on in two different parts of the world that are enormously complex, right? And you look and go, okay, what is this? How are we wrapping this one up, right? How are we going to end this? It's a very, I'm not saying anything that's particularly clever, but it's an enormously difficult time right now. And people talk about, well, World War III, and that was always the beef on Trump, was he's going to lead us into World War III. Well, I mean, I don't know. Can he do any worse than where we're at right now?
Right.
Again, I think, maybe so, but it's just, I don't think we're at the World War III point. We would be. The potential for a bad thing to happen if Iran had the nuke, right? That increase is exponential, right? Because then in that situation, you don't know, and maybe it does happen, and you get
Iran attacks Israel.
Yeah, Iran attacks Israel. I don't think it's going to happen in part because I don't think Israel is going to allow that to happen. Getting good intelligence on the state of the weapons program in Iran is a very heavy lift, but I think Israel, has certainly better intelligence than they had on the potential Hamas attack that was building. So I think if they get that sense, I think they will act, because they're probably thinking, well, same calculation, right? We can't. We're certainly not going to be able to find stability once they get that, right? Because that's just going to loom over the region, and then the Saudis will say, okay, we want one too, right? Maybe more than one. You usually have more than one in your closet. And then all hell breaks loose. So, people always worry about, well, why are we talking about the Iranians and getting the nuke? Well, look at the fucking regime, right? And look at what they're willing to do, and look at the trouble that they instigate and the problems that they create, the instability that they generate. And you think, really? You think it's going to get better if they get what they want with a weapons program? So, I think the Israelis, the IDF would make every effort to degrade that capability if they thought that the breakout was too soon. And who knows? Maybe the U.S. military, depending on the administration, maybe they would step in and provide that support. I don't know.
So the previous administration had harsher sanctions. And what else did they do that was mitigating a lot of the problems we're seeing right now?
Well, they did. You remember they killed Soleimani, right? From the RGC. That sends a message, right? Soleimani had a lot of blood on his hands. Look, you have to remember, the Iranian regime is also responsible for the death and injury of a lot of U.S. service personnel, right? Because they were actively involved in working to get IEDs into Iraq, and they were training and providing support and I mean, so they were killing U.S. service people, right? And again, we keep trying to imagine that somehow we can disconnect Iran. Okay, we're not talking about the Iranian regime; we're talking about their proxies and everything. But again, it all kind of flows back to them. So I don't know. I think I'm not suggesting a military conflict with them. Don't get me wrong, but I do think there are things we can be doing that can perhaps minimize their desire to pursue this path, or at least make it more difficult for them to. You're not gonna get rid of that desire, but yeah. So killing Soleimani was a good example of what they understand, right? They look at that and go, okay, they fired a couple of missiles, and they gave us a heads up before they did it, right? Because they were like, fuck, if they're willing to do this, now we have to respond, because we have to show our proxies, and we have to show our regional neighbors that we're serious. Right? Or we're not going to get pushed around, but they give us a heads up and say we're going to fire a couple of missiles, and so that's that shows you that's deterrence, right? And that tamped them down. Occasionally, you get a Houthi missile flying over from Yemen, but so I think that's again you have to do something that's deterrence. And blowing up a weapons depot in response to a couple dozen missile and drone strikes, and then they keep doing that. And then the last one I think was Sunday. This past Sunday, we hit a training site and a safe house, I think, used by IRGC and also by some militants that they have in the area. And then immediately after that, that was the third response. Immediately after that, we get more missile and drone strikes. So, again, repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting, what is that saying? Expecting a different result. Mm-hmm. It's a definition of insanity.